Hey guys, welcome back to Real Mongolia. This is the list of things I want to see changed in my country. Because this channel is called Real Mongolia, I can't talk about good things all the time. Every country has its ups and downs. This list is based on my subjective viewpoint, so I invited my friend Will Gao from Canada, who has been to Mongolia many times, to make this video more interesting and balanced. And don't forget to subscribe to his channel, Will Solo Travels, which has many good travel videos shot in Mongolia. So here are 5 things I want to see changed in the future in Mongolia. And the first thing is, of course, the infamous traffic jam. So let me give you just few info. So in average, a Mongolian person spends 2 hours a day stuck on traffic, and that's 35 days a year. Ulaanbaatar has now 700,000 cars. It's increasing by 50,000 each year. And the Ulaanbaatar population is 1,600,000. For 1,600,000 people, 700,000 cars is too much, I think. What do you think?
My observations while I was there was that it's an anomaly. You've got the 15th largest landmass in the world with 3.3 million people, and you've got half those people all in one city. But I think if I heard one time that there was going to be plans for another city, 50 or 60 kilometers away from ULAANBAATAR to take pressure off, that would be a good idea near the airport.
Yeah, I agree with you. Mongolia has this huge land, but almost more than half of the population lives in this small place stuck between 4 mountains. And this problem is just the Ulaanbaatar problem, not whole Mongolian problem, because other Mongolian smaller cities, the traffic jam is not that bad, but Ulaanbaatar, it's terrible.
And I agree, and it's not. The road system. I've traveled on the spoke roads going out to 12-hour drives to the Dornat province, and Chobasan is a growing. I like Chobasan, very well planned, growing city. The old Soviet-style structures are being replaced. But you got infrastructure in ULAANBAATAR that has to keep up. And I know there's ideas with new bus routes. I got my own opinion that they should create above ground a light rapid transit system and widen the streets as they get more people attracted out to the smaller communities. But it's a light rapid transit that's going to take the pressure off. I know. And the other thing. Okay, so let me back up here. This, as you know, I'm going to return back in June with friends and meet up with you, and we're going to travel for a number of weeks to explore the Western area. But the reason I'm coming back, it's the start of tourism and big marketing for Mongolia. But they need to tackle this infrastructure in their major city, especially with transportation, because it takes 2 hours to get in from the airport just to get downtown because of the traffic. And bumper to bumper, literally within centimeters of each other, and honking the horns. As you know, I used to think, how can people do that? But that's what happens. Yeah,
you experienced that firsthand.
Oh, I experienced that so many times. And I was thinking that it's going to take some good light rapid transit and the new bus systems to alleviate the pressure. But you have to admit, Mongolians love their cars like we do. I mean, we love our cars. Yeah. I'm not an expert. I don't know the solution. I just seen what other cities have done. And one thing about the Mongolians, they're very good at going to other countries and taking the best practices. So I hope that they're moving quickly on some solutions to this before they start promoting too much tourism and people don't want to travel there simply because of that.
Sometimes it's just better to walk than driving car in Ulaanbaatar, and it just makes me feel sad that we are spending so much precious time just being stuck on traffic, 35 days a year, which is unbelievable. Okay,
I'll make one more point. I've been there twice for the free car day, no car zone in the center of ULAANBAATAR. So they have the ability to have that free car day, which people loved. They're going to have to come up with more innovative ideas to alleviate that.
Yeah, I made a video about that traffic jam problem in Ulaanbaatar, and if you want to watch this, it's in the description below. So the second thing I want to see changed in Mongolia is air pollution problem. Ulaanbaatar's air quality is terrible, you know that. And just to give you some statistics. So there's the air quality index. Mongolia scored 150, being the 400 is the like highest, the terrible air quality, and Mongolia is 150. And compared to Calgary, Calgary's air quality is 13. You can see that difference, right? Mongolia is 150, Calgary is 13. What do you think?
Well, Andrew, because of the location of Ulaanbaatar, you've got inversion layers. It's one of the coldest capitals on the planet. You've also have the old steam-powered plants that they're trying to replace. It's the other thing of the poor districts, the economically challenged districts of the Gers, where people are burning briquettes of coal to keep warm during the wintertime that they're trying to replace. And I know they're trying to do this, but it's taking too long for them to find a solution. And what's happening that I know, because I met enough doctors and people that were in Ulaanbaatar at the time, that the chest and the infectious diseases caused by this, especially with children, is a huge impact on the healthcare system. And that's why you have a lot of the Ulaanbaatars moving to the rural areas temporarily to breathe better. Again, I'm not the expert. I just experienced that. And how do you help poverty? You got to keep people warm in the wintertime, and at the same time, you got to upgrade a lot of infrastructure on these plants that were made back 50, 60 years ago during the Soviet Union time. There's a lot of infrastructure that's got to be replaced, and that takes money. Now, I'm positive that Mongolian economy is improving this year, and they can devote more resources to that. So it's going to be a multi-pronged approach to this.
Yeah, I think there are three main sources of this air pollution. Of course, there's a raw coal. People use that to stay warm during the winter time, and also like vehicles, cars, they emit a lot of smoke, and also power plants, which is located right in the vicinity of the city. There are a lot of big power plants. The government is also doing things to reduce the air pollution. For example, they introduced refined coal briquettes, and they banned raw coal in 2019. But right now, if I just go out, see the window, the air quality is still bad. So I think it will take years to fix this problem.
No, I agree with you. And it's money. It's going to be money and innovative ideas to do it. And also with the coal issue, a big portion of the economy of Mongolia comes from their core coal exports to China, and they've got to continue with that. That's where they have to make the money in order to go more green. But it's going to be a long process. And in the meantime, the healthcare system is impacted. Now, I'm going to give you some insight. During COVID, I was there and I had to get COVID shots. A big stress in the healthcare system for children. If I was a parent and I had young children, I'd be looking for ways to make sure they're out of the city during the winter months.
There's an excellent documentary on Ulaanbaatar's air quality on the channel called Unreported World. So my next thing I want to see changed in Mongolia, not just Ulaanbaatar, is bureaucracy and corruption. Most people don't know this, but Mongolia ranks pretty low in the World Corruption Index. For example, Mongolia scored 33 out of 100 in terms of corruptions index. And Canada, for example, scored 76. So higher the number, you have a less corruption problem. So you can see it. And I saw that statistics, and the corruption index Mongolia is going down because I think its situation is getting worse. Bureaucracy and corruption. How about you think in Mongolia?
This is what is my observation, because I worked with a number of the government offices outside Ulaanbaatar, and they wanted a better governance. They wanted to learn better human resources leadership, and wages were always a challenge. But they've in the last 2 years they've improved their standards for civil servants. I know that they've increased the pay for civil servants. They're becoming a lot more using a lot more incentives to attract good civil servants. I know that you think that, the corruption is going to slowly disappear as the economy improves, and it's going to take some time. Like the coal scandal you had, they're very obvious. Or you've had other areas of people trying to survive, and you got corruption there. But I'm going to be as realistic. I mean, Canada, we're not immune to corruption. We're not anything that's special. We have our corruption just like everywhere else. It's hidden in different ways. We've got some recent scandals in Canada with government spending, which you can read about and you can comment on. We're not immune to it. And I'll also give you another insight about we're not any better at times at doing things. So I was stopped one day at the department store, the one that you just did a video on. And I was, of course, being one of the few Westerners at the time during the COVID, I was stopped by a number of students that were doing interviews, and they wanted to know my views on gender violence in those areas. They were doing a study, and I looked at them, and as they said, "Oh, you're Canadian, you've done so well." And I said, "Our statistics in Canada, it's nothing to brag about in terms of gender issues or gender violence in the households, whatever. We just had a longer time dealing with it, trying to find solutions." So sometimes I don't buy into the fact that we're any better. We've had more experience in trying to solve these things. So your corruption is going to get better. And the other thing to remember is that a lot of these World Bank loans and loans to Mongolia are based on the fact that Mongolian has to have better governance and they have to reduce their corruption. It's an incentive. They don't get any more money, loans from the World Bank, unless they reduce their corruption. So again, I'm going back that there's going to be more and more, I'm going to say, better times ahead for Mongolia. The more tourism that comes there, the more people that come there, exposure, the corruption is going to be decreased. Okay, but it's going to exist everywhere, except you'll start decreasing in the coming years.
Okay, so next thing is, and I want to see changed in Mongolia, is excessive use of social media, especially Facebook. So I did some research, and it says that right now Mongolia has 3 million Facebook users, which is almost 90% of the country. And Mongolian Facebook, I would say crazy, because there are a lot of misinformation, everything, a lot of misinformation, a lot of propagandas, politicians and parties use it to gain favor from the people. And it's almost like a way of life now, because you can't, for some organizations, some companies, essentially you can't operate without Facebook, because they use Facebook to run their company, organization, because they have this Facebook chats, groups, to share information, and it's almost like part of life. It's all right, people use it to run the business, whatever, but the bad thing is a lot of misinformation, propaganda, and a lot of agendas there. It's not like Mongolia has this problem. Everywhere the social media is getting out of hand, not just Facebook, Instagram, all the other social medias. Everything is glued to their phone right nowadays. But in Mongolia, it's especially crazy because of all this misinformation.
I mean, Facebook. I mean, you and I use YouTube as a channel because we like to be creators on YouTube. Facebook I use extensively with family and friends. I know that other countries, the Philippines, Ghana, especially Mongolia, they use Facebook, but the reason I connect with them is because they use Messenger, and it's a good way to communicate. So it's a very quick and expensive way, like you and I are doing on Facebook. So I think it's a practical way for them to be connected. The other thing to remember is that when you're living in a landmass of that size and you're a bit isolated, but you're very progressive, that's their social media. It's their only way to get their voice out, because they're landlocked. Mongolia is landlocked, and up until a few years ago, a lot of people didn't know much about Mongolia, and yet it's a democracy. Young group. And the other thing you remember about social media with the young group, the average age is 29. Because they're younger, they're going to use TikTok and the other areas. As they get older, they're going to be more discriminating about who's really not telling the truth, because we all feel we got propaganda everywhere. And so my feeling is that let it evolve. I'm more concerned about artificial intelligence, about how we use AI mixed with Facebook and all the other areas, and that's going to be difficult. Because right now, as a joke, I can be talking to you, and you could be an artificial intelligent avatar that I wouldn't know. You'd phone me later and say, that wasn't me, Will. I was, and that's pretty close to the truth.
Yeah, so my problem with Facebook and social media in general is that in Mongolia there are essentially no regulation, no laws, For example, there are a lot of bad people on the internet. Maybe they're like pedophiles, they want to do bad things, but in Mongolia there is no like monitoring system, no regulation. So essentially you could create a fake account and just molest or do some bad things to young children. So what I want to see changed is that there must be a certain law, you know, a law or regulation. Right now it's unregulated, so there are a lot of like bad stuff, you know, underworld stuff is still going on. For example, like betting. Betting is like a really big problem in Mongolia right now.
Yeah, I remember at the time I was there, they arrested, you know, almost 1,000 people, you know, and underground economy, and I agree with you. It's going to take time. You got to remember also that Mongolia is working with Estonia to become more of a digital economy and digital government, so everybody goes online. And I'm going to be amazed when a lot of the nomadic herders can come and they can do a lot of their banking online in the middle of Mongolia.
Yeah.
Its technology is actually going to benefit them in some ways. But I agree that people are going to have to be more sophisticated to figure out who's telling the truth here.
Yeah, everything has two sides, so we just have to be careful, and we have to also evolve as time goes. So the last thing is cold weather. It's something that I can't change, but sometimes I don't like it. And you know, sometimes my face physically hurts during the winter, and I just wonder, why can't I live born in like a warm tropical country, you know, times like that. Yeah.
I was, you know, because I was born and raised in a cold country, but I actually didn't mind the cold weather in Mongolia because it's sunny. It was a dry cold because, you know, the dryness made it a lot easier. When I'm in Canada, especially in Calgary, the rest of the areas, that it's a little bit wetter, so it's cold, but it's a damper cold. So I didn't mind. I actually didn't mind it. Bear, I hate to see the Mongolians getting soft.
No, it's just yeah.
You got 1,000 years of being tough, but
no, yeah, it's just sometimes, you know, the snowstorms, you know, it's just I like winter, but sometimes it's too cold. For example, in the coldest place in Mongolia is Tosten, which is in my birth province, Tsavkhan, and it gets as cold as minus 50. Can you imagine that?
Hey, I experienced minus 43 when I was into Mongolia, and that was cold. I can imagine another 7 to 10 degrees colder than that. I mean, it was that was difficult to move around. I agree with you.
Yeah, and Calgary.
You know what?
Yeah, I read that in Calgary a few years ago it was like minus 40. So we're not really different in terms of weather, right?
Well, we had it doesn't. It's what an example is. 3 weeks ago, maybe like I say 3.5 weeks ago, for about a 10-day stretch, it was minus 30, minus 35, a long time. The difference is a lot of us, if we have extra money, can afford to jump on a plane, travel 4.5 hours, and we're in Mexico at 26. Yeah. But the weather at that, it grinds on you, but it only lasts a few weeks, and we have what we call Chinooks. You know, they're wind patterns that come down from the Rocky Mountains. And if I look at statistically, we normally have 40 Chinooks over a period of time of, say, 3 to 4 months. And they change the weather anywhere from 10 to 20 degrees within a day. So if it's minus 20, the next day it could be minus 8 or 0. I mean, our weather is can warm up very quickly. You don't have that. You have the Siberian Express and those winter Siberian storms coming through, which are terrible.
Yeah.
There's no relief. You've got open area, you got the open steppes. And so one of the things I'm thinking is that if they ever reach the 1 billion tree mark by 2030 that Mongolia wants to do of planting 1 billion trees, you know, maybe it'll have a big effect on the local climate. I don't know. So maybe you got to look at that next time of how well they're doing with the tree planting. Ambitious because they need to have that, you know, trying to change the ecology that way and see it happens. But, you know, when I was in Mexico, some days it was too hot. You're never going to be happy, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Also, the climate change is affecting everyone, especially in my country, because there's desertification, and because we are nomadic herders, we are being affected more than other countries. Yeah. So I want to see that. Yeah, Million Tree is really good project. So I want to see it realized.
yeah, it's water. You know, when I was out traveling in southern nomadic herders, I mean, water's a big concern. You actually have those terrible winters every couple of years. I think they're called ZUDs, if I remember the word,
Yeah.
ZUD, where the massive cold comes in and kills off a lot of the animals. And there's a lot of challenges going on. But you got to think of me from a Western perspective. Is Mongolia is kind of one of the last kind of wildernesses, free wilderness, where you've got nomadic herders that doesn't exist in the world. And, you know, maybe 20, 30 years ago, it may not exist, but right now it does. So I look at the more romantic way of Mongolia, that you've got a huge section of 30% of your economy is agricultural nomadic herders, and it's still an attraction right now. So I'm hoping you'll find a way to preserve that.
So let's talk about your trip this summer. So what are you planning to do? Like give a little bit info to our audience.
So here's what I've got planned right now. My friend, who's named Finbar O'Sullivan, that's a good Irish name, is a well-qualified overland professional in the Okanagan Valley of British Columbia. Finbar and I are going. We may have one or two other people come with us, and what I want to do is come latter part of June before the Nandam Festival, start a kind of a circular trip going out to the Western province to see the eagle hunters and that Western area where China, Mongolia, and Russia meet. And then try to do a semicircle around to the tip of the Gobi near Montegobi, and then back up into where Genghis Khan was born and maybe buried, and back into ULAANBAATAR. Now, when I figure the trip out, because it's June and July, the festivals will be on, there'll be people on the roads, it'll be very great weather, and I've got some adaptability that, you know, if it's too ambitious, we can change it. But I get to see Karakoram, the ancient capital. We can go and see the mountains of the Western Mountains, see the tip of the Gobi. I can stop and actually, friends, I want to see the Bankar dog projects that go on, travel part of the Silk Road. It'll be an adventure doing a quasi 4x4 over that to the Western provinces, which I've never seen before. So it's a good time of year to do it, and that's to be able to have this once in a trip, because, you know, once you do that, you may not have the opportunity to do it again.
So I'm sure it's going to be an unforgettable experience, and I wish you good luck for everything. So thank you so much, and see you soon.
All right. Take care, my friend.
Okay.